quite a few stream fails this morning, but that's okay. It's still pretty early for most of us. This is the Corporate Esports Association Starcraft 2 Spring 2019 season. This is Saturday Morning Rewind. We'll be looking at some Week 3 replays. Pain Forest, Proxy Batch, followed by Peloton, Eagleview, Facebook Heart, Shopify, and that'll be it. Then we'll get into Week 4 action live today at 3 p.m. Eastern, so feel free to tune in for that. That should be exciting. We'll see the Red Hat Hatlings against the IBM. Should be a really good match. A lot of good Starcraft shaping up this season. So, without further ado, we will jump into the action now. Take a look at our map pool for Week 3. This is, of course, last week's previous matches. Old news by now. It's a week old, but just giving everybody a chance to be streamed. Trying to hit some of them mid and lower bracket games that haven't had a chance to go up on the internet yet. We'll be looking at New Repugnancy, King's Cove, Cyberforce, Port Alexander, and Automaton in our first match between Amazon Pain Forest and Google Proxy Batch. Starting off in our first match here, for Amazon Pain Forest, in the upper right corner is Phoenix. And in the lower left corner, our blue Zerg for Google, it's Alex. This is a PVZ here on New Repugnancy. For those of you just joining us, this is the Corporate Esports Association. This is a bunch of nerds working for companies who are getting together every Saturday, pretend like we're professionals for an hour. All companies donate a small fee in order to get into the season, into the league. And at the end of the season, there'll be a large tournament to determine a winner. The winner determines where all the money goes. The money all going to charity. We're doing this all for a good cause. Very important. Have some fun, but helping out some good causes along the way. Pretty standard openers for both teams right now. Protoss throwing down a Gateway and a Forge. Forge could indicate some cannon shenanigans. Meanwhile, Zerg getting that early second started. Just now dropping that pool. 17 pool. Very standard opener. Looking at his first gas. Probe coming across the map. Doesn't look like he's going to get in quite early enough to stop that second from going down, but dropping that pylon now in the Zerg base. Zerg responding now, pulling drones, trying to get that probe. If he can get that probe, that'll be no more cannons, but little does he know, second probe is on the way. First pylon finishing now, second pylon about 3/4 of the way done. As the second probe's coming in, he's going to want to drop that cannon. Gets the cannon down, but the drones have the surround. Wants to try to get that extra pylon out, but there's just enough drones on that to force the cancel. So 2 pylons still up in the Zerg base, as is Natural Pops. Zerg in a very good position to open this game. He's going to drop that Spine Crawler just in case the Protoss decides to follow up with a little bit more cheese. Does have another probe coming across the map. He may be looking to squeeze in a couple of extra cannons because the Zerg is deciding not to clean it up. A couple of lings pop. It's going to leave one ling there. Just chip away at that probe while he sends the rest of them off to harass. That probe now coming into the base. He's not going to be able to stop it. Spinecrawler needs to retarget cannons. 2 cannons. Second cannon goes down. And so does the drone. Continuing to work away. Managed to get the kill on 1 cannon. Ling and the Queen poking away at that second cannon. Spinecrawler trying to burrow. Looks like he's going to get the kill here before it pops. Pretty effective defense here against that cannon rush. Meanwhile, those first 5 Lings coming out, trying to hammer away at this Protoss wall. Drops the Cyber Core and the Pylon and calls GG. Very quick GG. And my audio wasn't on. So, that happened. Anyway, GG for Amazon. In our first match here. A very quick game. Zerg managing to hold off sort of a weird cannon rush. Doesn't look like the Google Protoss is really prepared for that. Probably just wanted to try to pull out a cheeky build just in case that maybe feeling the crunch of the difference in MMR there. You'll have to excuse me for a minute, folks, because these are played on a previous map. It's going to take just a minute to load up each of these replays. Patch playing a little bit of tricks with us. But after that first map with the Protoss cheese, haven't seen a lot of cheese in the tournament so far, but certainly shaping up to be a good series. Both Pain Forest and Proxy Batch coming into this match 0-2, so both teams looking for their first win of the season. One team will walk away 1-2, the other will walk away continuing to live in the cellar. We'll be moving into game number 2 shortly, with audio this time, preferably. As we are getting set up now, the old patch is loading, getting situated here. Just a minute as we update the overlay. Looks like we're going to be Amazon Jolin versus Google's Chai. And again, sorry if I am mispronouncing y'all's names. Not completely familiar with all the players in the league. We do get some interesting names from time to time. But after all, we're all just here to have fun and watch some Starcraft. So, kicking off now for Google Proxy Batch in the lower right corner. We have our blue Protoss, Expendable. And in the upper left corner of Cyberforce LE, our Amazon Protoss, Tejo. Overlay still not correct. We're going to go ahead and fix that. Just a second. That is... My notes appear to be wrong here. Much like our players in the tournament here, I am also no professional. Still trying to learn how all of this stuff works. And give you all a good experience while doing so. So, another, maybe a little bit more of a standard opening here. Protoss deciding to go ahead and drop his gas instead of fort. So probably double gas. Probably no cannons this time. Meanwhile, our Protoss going double gateway. Looks like maybe a little bit of extra pressure. Go ahead and get all those extra gateway units out to go ahead and harass a little bit, maybe a little bit more greedy play from our orange Protoss. Cyberport going down now, a little bit ahead actually of the orange Protoss. Orange deciding to macro up a little bit, also dropping his second gateway, but getting all that gas out quickly. Despite sort of a different build order here, things coming out really even on supply, even on mineral income, even on gas income. Neither side really deciding to expand. Seeing a little bit of scouting action from the Amazon probe, but the Google probe is on his tail. He's going to clean him up, not let him live any longer than he needs to. Sentry and Stalker started on both sides, as well as Warp Gate. Very mirror match. We'll see. Common for this early Protoss open. I get that Sentry Stalker out. I just need to push across the map, and a little bit of a cheeky move there. Amazon dropping that pylon, just kind of, I guess, trying to block blue in here. But we have our first real deviation. The Google Protoss opting to go Stargate. Going to use this Stalker and Sentry as a little bit of defense as he goes ahead and drops that Nexus at the natural. Second Stalker comes out just in time to clean up. Orange opting for a little bit of a different play here. Also has his Stalker and Sentry out, but dropping the Robo instead of the Stargate. Going to use that energy on the Sentry to go ahead and hallucinate a Phoenix. Phoenix, very fast unit. It's going to be very effective at coming in and getting that scouting information on the blue Protoss. He's going to see the Stargate go down. Now, the blue Protoss should know the timing on this. Based on his own Stargate timing, probably realizes it's a little early to get that Phoenix out. Realizes it's probably hallucinated. Doesn't rule out a Stargate play from the orange Protoss, but looks like blue will be ready. Starting to get those Stalker count up. Gets the first Oracle out. The Oracle's going to move across the map and get a little bit of harass in on himself. Blue dropping his Robo Bay, while Orange already halfway through producing his first Immortal. We'll see. Blue playing very defensively here, also getting his shield battery up. Very good scouting pylon from the Amazon Protoss. Sees that Oracle coming in. We'll see if he reacts to it. 3 Stalkers in the mineral line already. Gets a couple of probe kills, but that Oracle is toast. Just not able to get a lot of damage done. Despite that less than effective harass, we do have a still pretty even match here between Taeho and Expendable, even on supply, relatively even on worker. Expendable having a small 3 to 4 worker lead, while Taeho nursing just the smallest margin in army. If we look at the units tab for our 2 Protoss, blue has a second Oracle out. Hopefully, maybe use that later on. Get some revelation, get some utility out of it. A couple of Adepts. Not going to be super effective against this mainly Stalker and Immortal army. Those Adepts, a lot of damage against light, but just not beefy enough to hold back the sheer amount of damage coming out from this Orange army. Orange army moving across now. Obviously got the scouting information off that Oracle that immediately popped. We'll see how blue intends to defend this. Warping in a couple more Zealots. Dropping an extra shield battery. That shield battery is going to be critical to holding here. The one Immortal, if you can get shots off on those Stalkers, is going to be key to keeping all of it out. Those Zealots providing a good extra little bit of beef in the front to keep from dying immediately. Blue's Observer now sneaking across. Going to get a good view of what Orange has got sitting out here. Immortal's starting to stack up and his Warp Prism's out. Looks like he's going to use that Warp Prism to warp in a couple extra reinforcements. Then probably pop it back off and use it for a little bit of extra micro harass. Forge is going down for Orange. Looks like he wants to get into the upgrade game. Already has Zealot legs on the way. We could be going into a little bit of a gateway-based comp. Looks like Orange might be deciding to go back home after he got that scout off with the Phoenix. Doesn't really feel like it's time to engage. Blue continuing to put out the Immortals. Immortals are going to be that hard counter to that Stalker-heavy comp that Orange is building. Warp Prism just continuing to sit there for Orange. He's probably going to go ahead and pick that up and walk away with it. But Orange being very annoying, just staying out on the map. Has really good map control. Blue afraid to move out, and behind this, of course, Orange just powering up, building several more gateways. It looks like he is ready to commit to a 2-base heavy push here. Blue may be reading this a little bit wrong, goes ahead and drops his third. It's going to be interesting to see if Blue can hold the onslaught with a lot less army production than Orange. Orange going to be able to quickly ramp up what he's going to be able to throw at him. Also starting Blink. Blink has some good opportunities here if you get the Observer or the Phoenix and come in along this cliffside. You can get the Stalkers up into the main base and really do a lot of damage quickly. Meanwhile, though, Blue already with the ground weapons 1, starting on ground weapons 2. He may be done with that by the time Orange's upgrades are finished. Even more gateways in production. Just not relenting on the gateway production. If only he could build some units behind it. We do see a couple of Archons on the field for Orange. Starting to get a little bit of a scary army, but Blue keeping pace with him. Maybe not taking as great advantage of his timing as he anticipated. Several Zealots now warping in, just trying to make the best of the money he has. He's going to want to hit really soon to take advantage of this window. Blue now starting to saturate that third. His income is going to start spiking, especially when those gases go down. Able to afford those expensive Protoss units. Sees the Orange army coming in. Orange realizing he needs to do damage now before the economy takes off. Good concave from the Google Protoss. Ranking through these Orange units. A lot of beef left for Orange, though. Several Archons, several Immortals. Warps in a huge wave of Zealots to come clean up. These Zealots may be all he needs. Those Immortals for Google just not as effective. Has the shield battery there. That's going to buy him a little bit of time, but just has so much more stuff here for Tejo. All those extra gateways coming into fruition now as that Warp Prism continues to sneak forward, working in more and more Zealots with 2 more Archons starting to merge. Looks like this third's going to go down, and meanwhile, Orange smartly deciding to drop his third behind this. So, really turning the tide here in the game. Not much left for Blue to defend. Supply plummeting quickly. 100 supply to 58 now. Tejo taking both the worker and the army lead. Blue has a small upgrade advantage. Has that 2-0 against Tejo's 1-0, but with Blue kind of in a bind, Tejo's going to finish his ground weapons 2 here shortly and be completely on even upgrades. Decides to go ahead and engage into the Blue natural. Pulling the probes now, decides it's time to put boys in the fight, because this is a game on the line here. And there's the GG. Amazon off to a quick 2-0 start in this series. Very good game in our mirror matchup between Protoss. We'll see going into Game 3 on Cyber Forest. That was Game 3 on Cyber Forest. Well then. Might be a little bit of goofiness in these replay pack. We'll sort through it though. Here just to watch some good Starcraft. As we load in to our next game here, Amazon now sitting on a 2-0 lead over Google Proxy Batch. We will see if Google was able to tie the series up, maybe shooting for that ace match. Meanwhile, Amazon looking to close it out. It's possible these games were in fact played out of order. In the replay pack, Cyber Force labeled as Game 2, despite that being the third map and the official group. But we're going to be moving on now to look at game number 3, which is in fact King's Cove. This is going to be a another mirror matchup between a pair of Zergs on King's Cove. Oh, sorry about that. As I'll just take a second here to set up the overlay while the game loads. Alright, now we are back, and this is going to be game number 3 between Amazon Painforest and Google Proxy Batch. My mistakes earlier are redeemed, as is now Jolin versus Shy on King's Cove. Supposed to be the second match in the map pool, but labeled as map number in game number 3 in the replay pack. So, starting in the lower right here in King's Cove, we have Chai for Google Proxy Batch. And in the upper left, the Amazon Orange Zerg, Jolin, looking to close out the series with a 3-0. Chai hoping to stave off defeat for another map for Google. A little bit of observer chat here. Obviously, these replays will capture some of the observer banter and such, but you know, ask everybody to just ignore it. Focus on the Starcraft for now, as we have a pretty good ZVZ on deck. Orange getting his spawning pool down a little bit early. That's 16 or 17 pool with a single guess before the hatch. Google opting to drop his hatch first. Still hasn't dropped that spawning pool, but does have the gas started. This looks like a little bit of a mistake from Chai. Just now getting that spawning pool started. There is a window here for Amazon to punish if he were to get some fast lings out and get them across the map. A little bit of a longer rush distance than a lot of the maps in our pool. Will give Chai a time to reinforce that home, but he will have that second hatchery up much quicker than Amazon. That's going to give him a little bit of an advantage when it comes to economy. A little bit more larva, a little bit more mineral income. Overlords coming across the map. It looks like we're going to have just a flyby. These two in the middle of the map. Orange almost making it to the perf poach where he can sit and observe the natural, unmolested, without high-grown vision. When he flies in, he's going to see that hatch already popped for Chai. No workers yet, though, so not terribly far behind. Ling speed started on both sides, with the lings coming out. 4 lings, 6 lings for Jolin. Making it to the natural, seeing not much there. He's going to pick off the drone. Turn around, run into the main. Queen and a couple of lings there to defend. Should be enough. As he gets some of those lings down. 3 lings into the mineral line now. Just a little bit annoying. Won't be able to do too much damage. Has to pull the drones, chase them off. This is going to hurt his mineral income, but as that second queen comes down at the natural, he's going to run off those orange lings and be perfectly safe. Ling speed popping for orange at the same time. About to finish for blue. Baneling nest going down now for Amazon. Looks like he wants to keep up this early aggression, early pressure. Putting that Baneling nest way out in front. No blue overlord in position to get a scout on this tech. Looks like he's got one sitting here behind the base, as well. One just mapping out this path here. Blue's lings now starting to build up in numbers. Took out a couple of the scouting lings. Starting to move across the map now. Camera misclicked there. Gonna get onto the ramp, gets a good surround on Orange's Lings. Orange disengages, a couple of Banelings morphing in, but with those Banelings morphing, it takes a disadvantage in the Ling count. More Lings popping, doing some good damage on that clean. Blue flooding more and more Lings in, but just enough damage there from Orange to take the defender's advantage. Jolin starting to open a supply lead over Chai, 42 to 33. A few extra workers, a few extra army units. These Lings moving across the map, just now morphing into Banelings, as well as a Roach Warren on the way. Blue getting his own roaches out, just now fixing to pop along with the Spine Crawler. He's going to be able to defend this relatively easily, as long as he can avoid those large connections from the Banelings. Ling's running in from Orange now as that Spine Crawler tries to burrow, looking for those connections on the Banelings, not getting much. Spine Crawler burrows, and he starts picking off those Lings. Those roaches are going to be more than enough to clean up. Interesting enough, Spine Crawler is burning. Not something you typically see out of a biological building, but nonetheless down to just a couple of hit points. Very close hold there. Blue choosing to drone up behind this, getting more and more workers out. With that, taking a small lead in supply, primarily on the back of his army. A few workers behind, but Blue in very good defensive position. However, Orange decided to drop his third base now. Feels like he's ahead, trying to get even more ahead. We'll see how Blue responds to see if he wants to hit the Amazon Zerg while he has the opportunity. Good creep spread so far from our Google Zerg. Starting to get some movement across the map there. Virtually nothing from our Amazon Zerg so far. Just choosing to stick with those injects. Amazon getting a handful of roaches out now, as well as going ahead and getting that fourth gas going. A little behind. Decides he's maybe going to go into a long game now. Evo Chamber, allow him to get those upgrades. Meanwhile, the layer finishing. It must have been a cancel. Start on that layer and a cancel. Getting the layer started. Who knows what we'll see. That Overlord in position for an effective Nidus here. You can squeeze a Nidus in right behind the mineral line. If not, he can float it on over and get a Nidus in this void area in the upper part of his base. There's some darkness there right at the top of the cliff where a Nidus fits nicely outside the normal vision of the Zerg base. But we can see the Chai's roaches now moving across the map. This is a good chunk of roaches, really annoying to deal with. Meanwhile, what does Amazon have at home? Has his own ball of roaches. Getting a handful of upgrades now. Just seeing if he can squeeze that out before Blue's roaches appear. Blue gonna swing around, maybe hit this north side expansion, but Jolin's got eyes on him. 4-6 cents. Ravager in the mix. We'll get some good shots on. Good concave from Orange here. Blue not in good position to engage. Overlords are flying in. They're just taking a peek, and well, they decided to just hang out, I guess. Don't want to lose these Overlords for free. That is money you don't want to give up. Meanwhile, the Observer poking around in Blue's base sees everything happening. Queen's going to run it off. Not quite going to get the kill, though. Getting very close. Orange now moving across the map. Lots of observers out in the middle of the map. Going to see everything happening here. But once again, in a mirror matchup, We're going to see a defender's advantage from blue. Has all that good creep spread. Almost a poor engagement there. Blue moving across the map, just trying to get back to his own third. Just about to pop. Either side really wanting to engage fully here. Orange morphing in a few more Ravagers, just going to give him those siege shots. Knock down the backside of the blue army. Orange starting his burrow upgrade. Maybe he wants to do some burrow move shenanigans with his roaches. Gonna pick off this Ravager. 3 units. Always a good thing. Orange still getting a little bit of a better concave on this roaches. Blue needs to move back here before he loses everything. Orange looking unstoppable here. So many units starting to double the supply now. 130 to 53 with 92 to 12 army supply. It's not clear how Google's going to come back into this. Just absolutely destroying the Google natural. Moving up into the main now. There's the GG from Google. Amazon takes the 3rd map. On King's Cove. If I seem a little confused, ladies and gentlemen, it's because there is a reported map score of 3-2 for Amazon Painforce. By actual rules here, it looks as if maybe the maps were played out of order. Perhaps they did not have all of their players available at the time to play through these series. We do have one more map in the map pack. Does appear to be the ace map between Amazon and Expendable. Played for fun, possibly. We'll see what the results of that are. More Starcraft, always good Starcraft. So we'll be loading that up here shortly, just to complete this sort of logistically funky business here. And we'll be taking just an extra moment as Starcraft has decided to log in, to get the replay, and log back out to run on the old hatch. So we'll be seeing a rematch of 2 of our stronger players here, Jolin and Expendable. Expendable are blue Protoss. Here on Automaton, the expected ace match, played here for fun, just in case. Spawning on the lower left. And in the upper right, our Amazons are Jolin. Jolin looking very strong in his earlier match, getting a lot of good pressure on his opponent. We'll see if he decides to repeat that here. This is a ZVP. We've seen a lot of mirror matches so far in this series. We'll see what an asymmetric match looks like. Jolin going ahead and deciding to get his hatchery down first. Going to be a good economic move. Standard opener from our Zerg. Meanwhile, Expendable, our blue Protoss, starting his wall down on his natural. Starting to build that sort of defensive concave so he can safely expand himself. Getting an early gas down, that's going to allow him some early stalkers, get that warp gate going really quickly. Help defend against any kind of early aggression that he might scout from the orange Zerg. Protoss poking around a little bit, just seeing if he can see what the Zerg plans might be, looking for any kind of tech. Gonna hang out here until Jolin can spawn some units, run him off. Spawning pool only about halfway done for our orange Zerg, so we'll be able to build any lings or queens until then. Gets the timing on that hatchery. He's gonna see just about finishing now. Feels like he's in pretty good position, able to drop his own second at home, as well as getting that cyber core started. Second pylon there just gives him a little bit more breathing room. Takes the weight off of that other pylon in case something terrible happens. Probe deciding he's seen enough now. He's going to start moving out. With that spawning pool popped, Jolin's going to be able to spawn units that can quickly overwhelm that probe. Just going to go ahead and head back home. Overlord getting into the natural expendable now, seeing all the tech going up, including that extra gateway. Probe going to just stay on hold position there in the hole, make sure those lings don't get in. Warp gate started for Protoss. Going to go ahead and start saturating this this natural base. Got a little bit of a proxy play coming out, though, for Expendable now. He drops his Twilight Council in a strange position. Very close to the Zerg third. We'll see if these lings are not quite going to have vision, or just going to clip, maybe, the edge of his vision there. Not paying attention, though. Very close call, as our observer said, especially with that extra gateway going down. Looks like he wants to get some really cheeky proxy play going. Link speed finishing now, as they find that Adept out on the field. Adept's going to get one kill before they decide to disengage and run home. Adept shades forward. He's going to see what he can get done. The Resonating Glaives now started at the Twilight Council. This could be a really heavy early Adept play. We'll see if he wants to, maybe do something a little bit cheesy. Gets into Zerg main, starts picking off workers. He needs to kind of deal with this before he starts losing more stuff. Also sees the Roach Warren started. Roach Warren, very effective, holding back those Adepts. Adepts starting to be warped in now at our forward base for the Protoss. Not much in the way of defenses here. Also getting the Robo facility, taking the Terran approach, building a base in somebody else's base. In this case, just outside the third. It's going to be able to hold all of those lings with the Adept warp ins, but Orange not making the best advantage of his ling speed. Take the to get map vision. This one ling running across, he's going to see what he can see. Overlord really confused now, not seeing much of an army at the front, wondering what this Protoss could possibly be doing. Probably expecting some kind of double robo, cheeky Stargate, something in the main base, hoping to something to tip him off on what kind of tech path. As he realizes now, the army of shades coming across. This is frightening for the Zerg. Those roaches will be able to clean them up, no problem, but not if they decide to shade away, getting tons of drone kills now. Blowing away all these drones. Roach is able to respond. Another shade going across. We'll see how many get picked off before they can jump out. Two more Adepts falling before they jump over here. Queen's in position to defend, though, as a couple more Adepts have walked in. Focusing down that Spine Crawler, probably not the best use of their Resonating Glaives, but a lot of damage there done for the Protoss, though not in great position. Army supply falling further and further behind. Immortal and more Adepts walking in now. Those Adepts be able to clean up a lot of these lings, but the Immortal gets surrounded and getting picked off now by the Roaches. Roaches and lings just cleaning everything up. Jolin looking very strong. Expendable sitting on a few extra workers, but oh no, this is bad for our Protoss. The Lings realize this is most of the Protoss infrastructure. The Robo, Double Gateway, and the Twilight Council taking this out will set the Protoss back significantly. Going to put him in a really good position to just move across the map and attack while the Protoss is sitting on very low army count, not able to rebuild without that critical infrastructure. Has a few Adepts and an Immortal sitting at home in his ramp. Going to go ahead and start probably dropping a couple extra gateways just in anticipation of this attack coming across. Does have the Robo and a Forge going down in his main. It's going to give him a little bit of a beefier army. But has lost the worker lead now as Zerg has moved on to saturate all three bases. Dropping his own third. Trying to stay in the economic game. While this orange attack, not as scary as it could have been. Mostly Lings at this point. A few Roaches, but most Roaches turned into Ravagers to try to help take down this wall. Protoss going to take the best advantage of the wall that he can. Needs to pull those units back. Zealot getting picked off. Adept getting picked off. Stalker with Immortal in bad position. Adept's behind the wall doing a lot of damage to this Ling attack though. Going to get picked off by those Ravager shots. Adepts holding their own very well against these Lings, but as the Roaches and Ravagers start to move in, it's going to be harder and harder to hold. Probe's getting pulled, trying to do everything he can to hold this. And it might be just enough. Those Ravagers not the beefiest of units. Roaches, one Roach remaining, and three Ravagers, plus a couple of Lings. Immortal coming down might be enough to clean this up. Two more Stalkers warping in, but decides to call GG Amazon with another win. I'm going to have to take a look at some of those replays again, make sure everything was reported correctly, because I'm seeing 4 wins now for Amazon, not what's reported in the official scoring. But we're going to take a quick break now as I continue to navigate these old patch replays. I'm going to go ahead and move to Peloton Eagleview next. Hopefully a little bit more straightforward, better labeling on the replays. Not all captains label these things the same. But Amazon improving to 1-2 on the season. Google falling to 0-3. So we'll see if week 4 Google will pull out a win, take their first win of the season. If Amazon can continue to fight their way back into this season, get a better playoff seed. So, quick break here, 2 or 3 minutes, while I get set up. Enjoy some Brood War music. Hang tight. Alright, and we're back. We're going to be moving into our second series now between Peloton and Eagleview. Both of these teams coming into week 3, 1-1, hoping to break out of that middle of the pack. Hoping to get up into that 2-1, playoff type of contention, trying to avoid that 1-2, falling behind early in the season. Same map pool as before: New Repugnancy, Kings Cove, Cyber Forest, Port Alexander, and if the ace match is required, moving on to Automaton. That's a funny word to say. So we'll be going into our first game now between Peloton and Eagleview, taking place on New Repugnancy. Starting off in the lower left corner for Team Peloton, we have our blue Zerg Argyle, and in the upper left, our red Terran for Team Eagleview, DJ Rufio. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the Corporate Esports Association. We are a bunch of teams that have been formed from different corporations with a small buy-in donation, and showing up every Saturday, pretend like we're professionals, to play a 8-week season, after which we'll go into a tournament. At the end of the day, the winners will decide where all the money goes, all the money donated to the charity of choice from our winners. Playing Starcraft for a good cause, aside from the always good cause of having fun and watching more Starcraft. Getting back into the game now, our red Terran here, doing a very standard opener, getting that gas down with his barracks, starting to form that wall. Plenty of room there for the drone to sneak in, get his own scout down. The drone, Zerg here, opting for a little bit of a different build. Drone sitting at the natural, hasn't decided not to drop that hatchery yet, just biding his time while that spawning pool first. Just waiting there. Hatchery goes down now after the gas. Meanwhile, drone poking around, looks like he might try to do a gas steal. Very annoying for those tech-heavy openers from the Terran. If he wanted to go into mech or any kind of airplay, it's going to really slow him down until he can take out that stolen geyser. Meanwhile, Overlord also sneaking in. It's going to give, in addition to this geyser, which he does allow finish, a lot of scouting information on the Terran, whatever he decides to do. Terran going ahead and building that command center on the low ground as he gets his first Reaper out. Reaper allowing him to get a lot of scouting information of his own, up and down these cliffs. Very good for Reaper play. Second for the Zerg, almost finished now. Just now popping his first couple of lings, has a queen ready to go, ready to get those injects, ready to macro up at home. The Terran playing really defensively. First Marine pops out to drive that Overlord away, but puts the bunker at the front. Give him good vision, give him good range. Cover the concave there at the front. Reaper gets in to the Zerg main now. Just looking for any information about what the Zerg might be doing. Hasn't seen a whole lot. Saw the spawning pool, saw the queens, saw the natural done. He's going to run off and bandage those wounds and maybe pop in again a little bit later. A couple of Overlords now in interesting position. He could always pop back in. Another good spot for a Nidus here on the lower side of the Terran natural. Marine coming up now. Start clearing off that gas geyser. Terran falling somewhat behind in the gas game, able to get all the tech out that he wants. He is able to start getting that starport and his engineering bay down. Looks like we might want to go into some bio play, get those bio upgrades. Marine tank with some medevac support, very common at this level of play for Terran in TPZ. Meanwhile, Zerg not overcommitting forces, just a handful of lings for defense. Very safe build for him. Hasn't opted for any kind of wall off or anything yet. Obviously, there's a large threat from Reapers, from medevacs, anything dropping over these low cliffs. getting his next 2 gases down, though, so going to give him a chance to really get the gas going, while Terran's still currently sitting on only 1 gas. Fun fact, Marines don't require gas, so it's not going to be a huge problem for him. Going with the double reactor, or double tech lab on the barracks. Getting stems started, maybe wants to start combat shields, maybe wants to do marauder production next. Hasn't built anything out of that tech lab yet, probably just waiting on the gas. That gas skill is so annoying from Zerg, a little unusual as well. Cleans up the lings, trying to get that scout off, that bunker getting its job done, getting a little bit extra range on those Marines to shoot them down. Not much going on. The SCV trapped, trying to get that cheeky engineering bay. Engineering bay giving him the extra vision in case of Nidus here on the upper left part of his base. Always good to have a little bit of vision there. Traps the SCV though. Maybe get a medevac out to rescue. Never mind. SCV swings right on out on his own. No issue necessary. Reactor now going down on the starport. But Terran slightly supply blocked. Needs to get some depots down. Doesn't look like he's just now queuing them up. Small supply block, gonna hurt him just a little bit as he falls a little behind. The Zerg manages to shoot down an Overlord. Somewhere. Looks like the Viking probably went hunting. Bit of a slow game. Both sides really ramping up to maybe a big 2-base push. Some macro from our Terran. Meanwhile, 3rd base going down for the Zerg. Still a little undercommitted on his forces. Low army counts, just 20 supply on both sides. DJ Rufio popping out a few extra units, as does Argyle. Both sides really just want to get into their economies in high gear, hoping they can out-macro their opponent, but we have a couple of mutas now popping for Zerg. Zerg has gotten that Spire down, getting Baneling speed. Looks like a Ling Bane muta composition. Mutas, of course, helping to shoot down those medevacs while the Lings and Banes clean up all that bio on the ground. Red doesn't have a whole lot to defend, has a siege tank sitting there, not in siege mode. A couple of medevacs moving out, have coverage over those Marines, but not really in position to deal with this. Blue swinging around, he wants to hit that 3rd. Looks like he might get in there before it finishes. Starts focusing down the command center. Command center gets canceled. SCV picked off. Red Army regroups, but the wall is not finished in time. Baneling's now rolling in. This is going to be bad news for our bio forces. The wall at the upper part of the ramp goes up, but it's not enough. Tank needs to squeeze in so he can get siege. Not enough to stop those mutas, though. Viking there doing a lot of damage, surprisingly, on the mutas as the Marines underneath continue to clean up. Tank just barely has range to cover that hole in the wall as another SCV gets pulled to finish. Not a good engagement for the Terran. Zerg gets the cancel onto 3rd, and Terran loses quite a few of its army. Still, once again, showing the damage that extractor steel had, not being able to get those high gas units out sooner. Meanwhile, Zerg continuing to rally more and more mutas, lings, banelings. Just wants to go for a heavy bust style here. Just aggression, aggression, aggression. Hit fast, hit hard. The Terran with just the depot wall not at full health even. Going to be very susceptible to this push. Muta's deciding to fly into the main, completely undefended, no turrets, all the army on the low ground, on the other side of those ramp depots. Picking up so many workers. Workers continuing to fall. Going down to 25, 23 workers now as a couple of Vikings come in, drive off the mutas. They will almost get one. Pulls the entire army up to the main mineral line to defend leaving the front completely open, but the blue Zerg doesn't take advantage of his opportunity. SCV is going to drop a couple of turrets down, hope to deter some of that Mutalisk harass in the future. Only committing one worker to it. Hole in the wall down right now. Lings are going to run right in while the army's moving out. This is bad for a Terran economy. Just absolutely wrecking everything in the natural. Still not putting that depot up, allowing more and more units to come in. Army is going to return a couple of Vikings team here first. Still a couple of mutas. Green stimming, double stimming, trying to get in. Trying to hold that wall, but not enough. Peloton takes game 1 as we see a GG from our red Terran on Eagleview. So game 1 goes to Peloton. And if you weren't with us for our first series, of course, this being last week's matches, played on the previous patch, the new patch dropping this previous Tuesday. So a little bit of an extra delay as we move between games, trying to get the both logging out and logging back into Starcraft, and then logging out in order to load the replay itself. We'll take just an extra minute here as that replay loads. Going ahead and getting the overlays set. Peloton taking a 1-0 lead in the series. We'll see if they can carry some of the momentum forward into their remaining games, or if Google can tie it up and bring this back to a 1-1. Game number 2 loading now on King's Cove between Peloton and Eagleview. And here we go. Coming into game number 2, in the lower left corner of King's Cove, our orange Terran for Eagleview, or excuse me, orange Zerg for Eagleview, we have Lemuri. And in the upper left, our red Terran for Peloton, Kitagawa. Did not practice these names beforehand, so it is my apologies if I mispronounce any of this. A lot of interesting names on our circuit this year. Always good to see there's a big range of players. We see everyone from bronze to GM in this league. Once again, nobody here is professionals. Working professionals, not Starcraft 2 pros. Just an interesting mix of Starcraft from all up and down the ladder. We do see the orange Zerg going ahead and dropping his natural hatchery. Very standard timing from him. As well as the barracks going down for the Terran. Very standard openers, both sides so far. Doesn't look like we'll see anything too cheeky. It's another TVZ. Fairly even map for this. Zerg has a pretty well protected second and third here. Allows the economy to ramp up pretty well. Goes for both sides though, as Terran also has a pretty easy time defending both of these chokes if they decide to go tanks. The low cliffs also allow a lot of Reaper play, but the big open mains, as you can see by the shadow here on the backside of the Zerg base, repeated on the backside of the Terran base, really good if you wanted to drop that Nidus on the Zerg side and abuse lack of vision. Terran deciding to go into some extra barracks to back up his command center. Probably, once again, trying to go for a a large bio push, as we saw in the Terran from the previous game. Dropping another barracks, going up to triple barracks now without the factory. We could be seeing some early bio aggression, just a push that hits just a little bit faster than the standard medevac type of push. Command center just now finishing now, as a Zerg. Looks like he might want to get that third going, just going straight into macro. Third at 250. Very fast third, just a couple of lings at home to defend. Ling speed about halfway finished. May not be ready for this big Terran ball about to come in. Factory now started, a lot of add-ons going down, Tech Lab and the reactor. Going to allow him to get a lot of bio units out really quickly as he goes ahead and shifts this command center over towards the natural. Going to allow him to keep up with the Zerg. Very even in worker count, but as the Zerg has access to all of those extra hatcheries, all that extra larvae, he's going to be able to start producing very quickly. Metabolic boost now just about finishing. Going to give his lings that extra speed to get across the map. And really take map control away from the Terran. Terran without those medevacs going to be struggling a little bit to get good scouting information on his opponent. Starting the depot wall now for Peloton. Very slowly, not overcommitting all his resources to wall off just yet. Probably feels like the Zerg's not prepared to attack. Sort of going on blind faith here. A lot of big Zerg attacks could be coming in any time from 5 to 10 minutes as we see big Ling flood in production for Lemori. 10 Lings about to pop as it starts to layer as well. Double Evo going down, just throwing the whole playbook at him. Starting to choke off that natural, giving him a little bit of better concave advantage. Combat shields finishing for the Terran, as well as a tank coming out. Overlord just hanging out, taking a look at that second base, knows that timing, sees workers starting to fill in. Also, Overlord chilling out at the Terran third, knows there's no third for the Terran yet, but has plenty of vision for lots of good Nidus opportunities. Starport finishing with that reactor is going to be able to get out a couple of medevacs to support this bio push. A couple Marines, Scouting Force, Expedition, Peloton. Looks like they're just going on a little scouting trip. Make sure there's no Zerg armies hanging out in the near vicinity. Gonna pick off that scouting Ling. Meanwhile, both sides just continuing to tech up. Baneling's morphing in for Lemori on Eagleview. Starting those upgrades, looks like he's going into melee weapons with that ground carapace. Even more Baneling starting to morph. He's got a good sense that our red is going bio heavy, and that's not going to bode well for our Terran. As those Banelings roll in, when Baneling speed finishes, he's going to need to get some expert connects and splitting with those tanks and those Marines. Try to avoid the damage as much as he can. Lemori probably looking for the 1-1 timing here. Get Baneling speed, ground weapons, and ground carapace all finished as he moves in for the attack. But based on the timings alone, it could be that it lines up very well with Stim from the Terran. Terran may be looking to move out on his own timing with the couple of medevacs plus Stim. Stim going to make it a little easier for him to micro and split those Marines against the Banelings. But this Lone Ling coming out, Lumari doing a fantastic job, just sending a couple of scouting links here and there, keeping tabs on the map, just maintaining all of that map control. Has good vision along the edges as well for those side drops that Terran like to do. Not the strongest creep shred. I'm going to pick up a couple of Marines now. Maybe do a bit of a split push here. Drop a couple on the high ground while his tanks siege up on the low ground. Just keep them a little bit safer. very safe position here behind the Marines, able to shell that natural third, but the wings swinging around now are going to clean up everything. A couple of Banelings going to hit those Marines on the high ground. Tank's doing a lot of damage to that Ling Ball. Just a very secure position here with the Marines covering them. Able to knock down that third with no issue. Maybe a little bit of miss micro on Lumori's part. Tank's going to unsiege. Everything's just going to move, rotate around now. Lumori has a chance, going to pick off one of these siege tanks. Really important. Attacking this army while those tanks are out of position. Marines starting to take a lot of damage from those repeated stems. Liberator arrives. Is going to try just a little bit of cover. Gets the Queen. That third base officially finished now. First tank moving in. Going to start leapfrogging these tanks. Get that siege position going. But Orange swings around the backside. Devastating counterattack. Banelings roll in. Take the whole ball of Marines out. But that's not enough. As he calls GG. Just too much damage coming in from the Terran. Or too much, sorry, excuse me. Too much damage coming in. Yes, too much damage coming in from the Terran. Peloton takes game number 2. So Peloton goes up 2-0 in our series between Peloton and Eagleview. If you're just joining us now, we are playing through the Week 3 replays from the CEA Spring 2019 Starcraft 2 season. However, because there was a patch between this week and last week, having to do a little bit of funniness, logging in and out of Starcraft in order to get those replays to load. Starcraft not allowing you to play replays from an old patch while continuing to be logged in. So just a little bit of extra delay here while we wait for the replays to load. Peloton going up 2-0 against Eagleview. So we'll see if Peloton able to close out the series with a 3-0 victory, or whether Eagleview starts the reverse sweep and comes back. Game number 3 on Cyber Forest. Now loading between Peloton and Eagleview. We're going to see a TVP now. First TVP of the day. I've been seeing a lot of mirror matches so far, mostly in the Amazon Google match earlier, but a lot of TVZ so far in our Peloton Eagleview series. Spawning in the lower left are green Protoss for Eagleview is Dev D. We call Dev for the benefit of my sanity. And our yellow Terran for Peloton in the upper left here on Cyber Forest, Daggerfield. Our observers extolling the benefits of the Game Hard extension. As you can see, several things you note. Production showing up on the buildings. Useful to see exactly what building, what units. Other benefits, there are extra graphs. There are workers killed. You see upgrades as they finish. Very useful. Great for observing. With the viewers at home all know exactly what's going on. I can promise you I am not the best caster, but I'm trying just to give you all of the action as best as I can. Another standard opener so far in this TVP. As the observers continue to chat a little bit, Protoss going ahead and dropping his Nexus, getting that fast expand going down before the Cyber Core. A little bit on the greedy side. Meanwhile, Terran going with another double racks opening. These Peloton Terrans just relentless in their pursuit of bio play. Getting that tech lab down on the barracks, going to allow him to go into an early stim, early combat shield, just build up a little bit of extra tech. Very smartly deciding to build a supply depot on the right side of the base. As has been noticed, Cyber Forest, probably the largest main base of any of the maps in our map pool this week. Large empty void area on the right side. Very good to drop into, very good for Nidus play. Parking your Overlord in this sort of safe void area just to the right of the base. And calling in the worms. Protoss opting to do the same, dropping that pylon on the left side, just scouting for any drops. Get that Doom drop coming in on to the left of the base and unloads the whole army, able to siege up and just establishes a really fortified position if it's not scouted. So, concussive shells actually finishing first for the Terran. Looks like he might want to get some early Marauders. Marauders very effective against a lot of these early Protoss units. Those concussive shells are going to keep those Zealots at bay, as well as the Marauder shells doing all that extra damage against the Stalkers. Warp Gate about 2/3 of the way done for our Protoss. We'll see if it finishes in time. Just a single gateway, but 2 more gateways in the Twilight Council coming down. But a lot of aggression, early aggression coming out from the Terran. These 2 Marines, 2 Marauders, very scary at this stage in the game, but that probe sitting out there conveniently sees it. Not able to get away as those concussive shells slow it down. Warp Gate almost finished, another 10 seconds. Just now getting that pylon up, not going to be able to get a shield battery in time for this attack. Pushing up now, sees the Protoss army coming down. The concussive shells slowing that, getting all the shields off that Zealot. Keeping that Zealot out of the fray, protecting their buddy Marines, but these Marauders are just so beefy. Shocker's doing a good job with focus fire, taking down the first Marauder, getting the second Marauder. It looks like they're going to drive the Terran units on back. The Protoss economy coming up just in time, getting those gateways warped in time to push the Terran all the way home, perhaps. Not continuing to chase, though. Terran electing now to start their second command center. Going to be a little bit behind on economy, but only a couple of workers at the moment. Hasn't even started the orbital, though. Not having those mules, big hurt when you're not able to get as many workers out as your Protoss opponent. Continuing to pump out those Marauders and Marines, though. Getting a second tech lab going on that second barracks. Gonna allow him to produce even more Marauders. Against this gateway heavy composition, going to be very effective, especially against the Zealot legs. More and more gateways. We are going up to 7 gateways for this Protoss. He wants to engage heavy and hard and soon. Probably a really strong 2-base timing here. Forge going down as well. Concentrating all his tech here on the left side of the base. Tons of open area. You can put it anywhere, but might as well put it where you don't want your enemy to go. Meanwhile, first tank out for our Terran with a small bioforce of Marines and Marauders. Continuing to produce. Still hasn't built that orbital. Looks like it might be a little bit of an oversight. Just missed that in his build as he floats his second command center over now. That's a key economic mistake as he continues to fall further behind on workers. Won't have those mules to catch up. Won't have those scans to scout. Just a key piece of the Terran arsenal that's missing. But army production continuing on track. Needs to transfer some of those workers. Been doing a good job building them, just not very efficient. Put them all on one base. Sees the Protoss army moving in, decides to back from the main. Gets the wall up just in time. Tanks shelling everything coming in. Zealot legs charging that first tank. It's going down quickly. Zealot's really confused. Those concussive shells making life difficult for them, but Managed to clean everything up. Plenty of Marauders here. They'll be able to take out the rest of these Stalkers. Engage down the ramp. Poor position for the Marauders. Get caught up by the Zealots. Zealots running in, doing lots of damage. Tank Shell doing a lot of damage against the Marauders also. And with the Zealot reinforcements, Protoss looks like they're going to be able to clean up everything coming out from the Terran. Quick GG. Eagleview takes a game from Peloton. Not quite tying up the series, but coming back one map in game 3. We will see if Eagleview can continue to leverage their momentum here and maybe go for a reverse sweep. Always in favor of seeing the ace match, seeing it come down to that crunch time. So, just a short delay here as we log in and out of Starcraft to get these old replays going. Of course, with the new patch dropping this past Tuesday, we are having to do some logging shenanigans to get these replays to play. Blizzard not wanting to show old replays on the current patch. So just a little bit of an extra delay here as we move into game number 4. Peloton hoping to recover from that loss and go ahead and take the series, while Eagleview hoping to carry some of their momentum into this 4th game, complete the comeback, and force the ace match. Just another minute here while we set up the overlay and get this 4th map loaded. Looks like we're going to have a PvP, so first mirror match of this series. Saw quite a few mirror matches in the earlier series, but a lot of Terran so far out of Peloton, and a little bit of a mix coming out of Eagleview so far. Couple of Zergs and Protoss. But this time, we're going to see a PvP on Port Alexander between Peloton and Eagleview. Peloton hoping to close out. And the man to lead the charge here is Iceman, our red Protoss in the lower right on Port Alexander. And for Eagleview, hoping to pull the series back, hoping to bring it back to 2-2. Our blue Protoss in the upper left, Panda Soul. Not sure whether that's Panda Soul or Pan Dasol. But Panda going ahead and dropping his first pylon on the low ground of the natural. Just really wants to get that wall started early. Probably wants to take this into a macro game, really leverage that Protoss heavy army. Meanwhile, our red Protoss opting for the high ground, more standard wall off on the ramp, and getting his gas down. Our blue Protoss still currently gasless. Probably going gasless is going to allow him just to mine those couple extra minerals without committing those workers. Build up that mineral bank so he can drop that blue nexus. Gets his first gateway going. Wall starting to form here on the low ground for Panda Soul. Red, though, getting his second gateway. Going a little bit of a heavier production route. The blue probe getting into the base is going to see everything going on here. Going to take the long way around the scout. See the double gas. See the cybernetics core. See the second gateway. Maybe a little bit concerned back home with this a little bit more of a greedy wall. Blue probe's going to sneak on out of there. Go report back to the Protoss home base. Wall continuing to form here for Eagleview. Peloton probe does get in, though. Sees no second yet. But saw all the tech at the front. The extra gateway, the cyber core just finishing. Knows that his tech's slightly ahead. Going to see that second gas just warping in. If he clicks on it, it's going to see not a lot of life on it so far. The blue probe continuing to give chase. Just, you know, walking around the base. Red being so annoying, getting all that scouting information in. Just looks like he's rallied on a big loop around the blue base. Going to continue scouting as long as he can. Blue getting that that gas saturated while he starts his warp gate research. Meanwhile, warp gate research on the way for red as well. Drops his pylon on the left side. A lot of bases in this map pool have this sort of nice void area outside the main base. You see a little bit more clearly on the blue side. Hasn't built any buildings over here. Good for warp prism harass. Any kind of blind drop that you don't want your opponent to see. Start warping in a lot of units, build up a sort of fortified position, and push into the main to get a lot of damage done. The red probe hung out a little bit too long, gets caught by that probe in hold position, but drops the pylon. Pylon blocking the natural for Eagleview. Going to be just really annoying to deal with. Only one stalker on the ground to knock this pylon down. And two shades now coming in for Peloton. These shades going straight into the main, going to be able to do a lot of damage on these probes, with the two stalkers warp in just in time. Probes get pulled, but not before the depths start picking away at those probes. Two probes down already. Third one goes down. Fourth falls before the adept does. And just a little bit of economic damage against the blue Protoss, falling a little bit further behind in the worker production. Looks like he hasn't quite kept up his macro as well as the as Iceman, our red Protoss. So with those couple of worker kills, Iceman taking a small lead, 38 to 32 supply now. Army supplies relatively even as another round of warp ends comes in on both sides. That Robo Bay now done for Iceman has the Immortal out. That Immortal very effective against Stalkers. A couple of sentries there, getting that Guardian Shield and Force Fields help guide the battlefield a little bit. Gonna send that Hallucinated Phoenix across, get good scouting information. Has those energy on the sentries, might as well put it to good use. As he comes across, gonna see a couple of Stalkers there. Stalker's gonna pick away at that Phoenix. Probably know it's hallucinating, but nonetheless trying to prevent all that extra scouting information. Still scouting no second base. Red's got to be feeling pretty good so far, as his natural is almost complete. Red looking like he's in a very good position so far. We do have a drop from one of our observers. Nothing to be worried about. Both players still in the game. So blue, probably looking to expand real soon. May have actually made a mistake here with this gateway. This gateway may actually be blocking his Nexus from dropping. Goes ahead and drops the Nexus at the normal third. Critical building placement error from Eagleview. We'll see if that's going to cost him. Put a lot of money and resources into getting this quick low ground wall. Not able to take advantage of it. Having to opt for the far more open, one of the more open thirds in our map pool. It's going to go ahead and start getting pylons down just in case. Positioning a couple of stalkers there, just trying to get some map vision. That army poked in a little bit, didn't see a whole lot. Two shield batteries at the front for Iceman, very good defensive position for him. Several immortals on the field, just currently a little bit more than Pandasol wanted to engage. With that economy advantage though, second base nearly saturated already. He's gonna have a little bit of a window here where he's just gonna have a lot more punch that he's able to warp in. Limited upgrades so far on both sides. Twilight Council started for Pandasol while Twilight Council finished for Iceman. And if we take a look at our upgrade tab, so only Zealot legs finished for Iceman. Catches an observer with his own observer. Stalker trying to pick it off, but observer managed to find just the, just the right position there, out of reach of any of those stalkers. And Iceman's observer. Oh, well, he's going to turn around and clean that up. Looks like, possibly, if he has vision of it. Blue observer gonna just sneak right back on through here. Doesn't want to die today. Gets a great look at everything that the Peloton Protoss is building. Go ahead and sets himself up into a wide scanning version. Sort of a bold position there, but nevertheless, he's going to know when Peloton decides to move out. Saw those two gateways dropping as he flew across. And as you see now, going to hallucinate that Phoenix. Hallucinate Phoenix, a good way to scout ahead of your push. Decide, is this the time that I want to hit? Of course, this being a mirror match, any units you have are fair game for your opponent. Also have available to him. Zealot Lex about halfway done for our Eagleview Protoss. With 2 shield batteries. A bit of a good concave here. Created a couple of chokes he can take advantage of, and using these shield batteries will be able to keep his units a little bit beefier. That building placement in the natural still haunting him, not able to take advantage of that base. He's probably going to want to take out that gateway so he can get that third down. A much safer third than any of his other true thirds would be. With the Templar Archives finished, Iceman starting to warp in a couple of Archons. We could see a Archon Zealot type of composition coming out in the future. But we're going to see a Clash of the Titans here. Iceman have a 30 army supply lead against Panda Souls. It's 81 to 52. Panda Soul with his observer flying across, gonna get a view of that red army. Gonna desperately try to warp in some more reinforcements he can hold here. Good army placement. Zealots in the front, Stalkers in mid-range, and a couple of Mortals just hanging out. Decides to get very offensive here, or very defensive here, excuse me. Dropping 2 more shield batteries and an extra pylon. Just getting all those really good Protoss buildings there to help defend. Meanwhile, Peloton deciding not to engage, just biding his time, trying to decide what the opportune time to attack is. No particular timing in range. Storm almost finished for Eagleview. Going to be very effective against those that Zealot ball running in. If he can get a couple of High Templar on the field, already warped in, already building up that energy. We'll see if he can get a round of storms off on this advancing red army. This army just being so menacing here at the front. As Peloton continues to warp in even more Archons. That warp prism giving him the forward base to warp into. Just continuing to build up now. Cold War between these two Protoss, blue and red. Both sides continuing to build up. Iceman holding that roughly 30 supply lead in army that he had before, but that economic lead, 56 workers to 37. Having that extra base, very effective. And excuse me, folks, it looks like we have a little bit of harass Zealot run by on the right. That's the third of red. Red pulls his entire army back to try to deal with this. It's going to give blue some breathing room, gives him a chance to go ahead and drop those expansion. True third at a normally would be a fourth. Blue moving up, seeing that the whole army is out of position, doesn't engage with everything. This red army takes an uneven fight, cleans up a bunch of Zealots in front.
Works in another round of Zealots just in time. Those shield batteries doing everything they can. Blue storms coming out. Lots of storms mowing through these Zealots, taking tons of life off of them, clearing the shields out of most of them. Even more Zealots continuing to warp in. Panda Soul probably feeling the pinch of that economic disadvantage as his army supply plummets. 115 to 46 now. Iceman with a commanding 100 supply lead overall. But with Panda Soul getting his third up, he is in position to reclaim his position in this game. However, Iceman, taking advantage of that early economic advantage, has two ground weapons completed. That's going to make his army just a little bit punchier. Those Archons, Immortals doing so much extra damage, especially with Blink now finishing for Panda Soul. Looks like he might want to commit to some heavy Stalker play. Not going to fare well against all these Immortals on the field for Iceman. As we take a look, the Cold War continues. Panda Soul and Iceman just staring at each other from up and down that ramp. Panda Soul, a little bit of a disadvantage there, sitting on the high ground, surrounded by 3 ramps. Iceman with the high ground, nearly impossible for Panda Soul to attack into up that ramp. But Panda Soul secretly getting this third base up and running, has a couple of gateways there just to help his production out a little bit more. But Iceman is onto the game now, going to go ahead and knock those rocks down. Probably thinks he can get a good flank going, coming down both of those ramps, but he's going to walk up and realize there's a functioning base here. Given the situation with Panda Soul, probably thinks Panda Soul is moving up to fourth base. Doesn't realize Panda Soul never got the third down. But here we go with the pincer maneuver. Lots of good storms going down on the Zealot Archon composition, but it just doesn't have enough units here to defend. Those shield batteries completely depleted, all 4 of them. Just not much left. And Panda Soul, GG. Peloton takes the series 3-1. GG to Peloton with the victory on Port Alexander. Some good matches between Peloton and Eagleview. Both teams coming into this match 1-1. Peloton leaves 2-1, while Eagleview falls to 1-2. Peloton trying to break into the upper side of that bracket. Eagleview trying to dig their way out of the hole they have created. So, good matches so far. We're going to be taking a short break here as we continue to move through our Saturday morning rewind with the Week 3 replays of Starcraft 2. Be sure to tune in a little bit later, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, for the live broadcast of CEA Week 4 of the Red Hat Hatlings against IBM. But far shorter term, hang tight, and we'll be back soon for our third series of the morning, where we see Facebook Heart up against Shopify. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, it is nearly time to get into our third match of this morning on our Saturday morning rewind. Getting into Saturday afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. Facebook Heart and Shopify, our third series of the day, which we're going to see on the same map that we've been watching all morning. New Repugnancy, Kings Cove, Cyberforce, Port Alexander, and Automaton for the ace match, if necessary. Just taking just a moment here to load up the replay. These replays played last week, week 3 of our CEA season, on a previous patch. Starcraft patched last Tuesday. Starcraft doesn't particularly care to load up old replays while logged in. So a little bit of logging in, logging out, just to make sure we can get these games to you as effectively and efficiently as possible. First game now, loading up between our two combatants, Facebook Heart and Shopify, both 1-1 coming into week 3. We will see who will prevail, who will move into week 4 with the better record. Now jumping into game number 1 on New Repugnancy, in the upper right corner for Shopify is Lethal Logica. Very impressive name, sort of neat. I like the Lethal Logica. It puts together a couple of different words. In lower left, for Facebook Heart, our blue Protoss, Catfish, spelling it with a K. A little bit of attitude coming out of this one. For those of you just joining us, hold the phone a second. We're going to see if we can get through this pitch really quick. This is the Corporate Esports Association League. A bunch of working professional teams getting together, trying to win some StarCraft for charity. Winner decides who all the money goes to. Charity of choice. Playing StarCraft for a good cause. And most importantly, playing StarCraft to see cannon rushes. But the probe makes a terrible mistake here. Can't actually get out. Has himself walled in. For better or worse, puts the depot down to let the probe out. Maybe not the best concept. First pylon almost finishes. Gets the cancel off. Gets the refund. Another probe going down. All those workers pulled. Lots of lost mining time for the Terran. But also not a lot going on for the Protoss. Getting a couple of cannons down now on the low ground, along with that gateway. Gateway is going to allow him to build a couple of zealots to help reinforce these cannons, keep some of the Terran at bay. SCV continuing to chase the probe around. It's not clear as that SCV comes down the ramp, sees the probe peeking up. That pylon up there is going to give the Protoss some vision. Starts picking away at that supply depot. Those two pylons so annoying, giving Facebook so much vision. The first Marine pops as that bunker starts coming. Second Marine now. Those Marines are going to want to get in that bunker. He gets picked off by the cannon. This is a terrible loss. It's half of Terran DPS right now with those two Marines. SCV going to start another depot. Running into a supply block issue as that cannon continues to pound away at the barracks. He's going to want to move that barracks if he doesn't want to lose it, or at least start repairing it. Marine's going to pick off first pylon, going to help a little bit with the vision issue, and then start working on the second one. But as they start chewing away at the second one, the Zealot moves out onto the ramp. Zealot going to be able to give them lots of vision. Those 3 Marines doing everything they can to make sure that pylon goes down, but Facebook continuing to put the aggression on. Builds a shield battery now on the low ground. I'm just going to keep these cannons, 2 shield batteries going down, along with a Stargate, proxy Stargate in the Terran natural, folks. He's just pouring on the pressure here. Doesn't want to let down at all.
Zealot pokes up, takes a little bit of shield damage from the Marines in the bunker to get a couple of extra shots on. Recharges from the shield battery. Finds kind of a spot there to get the kill from the two cannons. Starting to take some hull damage on that Zealot. Doesn't want to get too greedy. Just needs that vision. With that warp gate or warp prism coming out, gonna be very tough. Marine poking at that cannon now, but gonna make it very. The shield battery is gonna make sure those cannons aren't taking any damage. Some switcheroo happening from our Terran, getting barracks on factory on the tech lab, hoping to get a tank out really quickly. Tank will help clear this up, but tanks don't shoot up. I'm gonna have some trouble dealing with the Void Ray. Terran in a lot of trouble in general. If there is a consolation for our Terran, it's that Protoss has done nothing back at home. Has Warp Gate started, has his forge, but nothing else behind this. Protoss just trying to win the game. Stalker picking off that depot there on the top of the ramp as the second Void Ray comes out. Just a really cheesy game right here, folks. Those shield batteries just keeping those Void Rays alive. As the tank comes out, the tank's going to start to lay down the law. Going to keep Protoss honest and keep everything off the ramp. But if those Void Rays can sneak around with the turret up, that's going to make it very difficult for those Void Rays now to get in. Pretty much anything that the Protoss can do to get vision, observers, any kind of flying thing, is going to take it down. Void Ray is going to chew through that depot, do so much damage. I'm going to poke around, work the edges of that, around that bunker. Able to chew down that bunker, not quite going to get those Marines down, but going to continue to pick off buildings. 2 tanks out now for the Terran. And all of the shield batteries for the Protoss. Protoss is committed. He said, you want to see some cheese? Well, here is some fine Swiss cheddar. All of the cheese, all of the time. Not letting up this aggression. And his follow-up into Tempest, as our observer ended at. Tempest just going to continue to lay down the siege damage from long range. Protoss wants to get that vision onto the high ground. Picks off one of the tanks. Terran forced to move further and further back. The more ground he gives up, the easier it's going to be for Protoss to establish high ground vision. Tempest now poking away at that bunker. Terran, not much of an answer yet. Viking coming out from the starport. Void Ray is starting to get very low. Not really anything to deal with these Marines, but Tempest just completely unmolested. Viking chipping away at the Tempest, but with all of the shield batteries behind him, and the second Tempest appearing, looks like he's going to easily be able to take down, chipping away the SCVs. Doesn't quite finish the turret. That's heartbreaking right there. Cyclone comes out now. Going to get the lock-on that Tempest, but can't maintain vision without being in range of all of the Tempest and Void Ray shots. Viking doing his best hero maneuver, but Terran continuing to bleed workers. Tempest take down that siege tank that is desperately trying to knock down some of these shield batteries and cannons. And Terran doesn't really have an answer here. Those shield batteries, so many shield batteries, so much energy still left on them. 3 Tempest out now, just going to continue to clean up the Terran. Terran just pulling everything, just holding everything back, looking for one last push to break the siege, break the contain by the Protoss. If he can break this, there's so much money invested here in the front that Terran has a good opportunity to get back into the game, but he just doesn't have an answer for what's on the field right now. pushes his Marines forward, but nothing happens there. Shoot apart. Trying to focus down one of these Templates, but just gets death. Template's starting to get very bold now, moving onto the high ground. With the Void Wraith taking out a turret. Starting to get into that production for the Terran. It picks off one of those Void Wraiths. That's very good for him. A couple more shots. Takes out the second Void Wraith. 4 Tempests on the field now. This is starting to look very scary. Able to almost one-shot the tank. Almost one-shot the Viking. I think it's a 5th Tempest out. That's going to be probably game over. Catfish going ahead and deciding it's time to expand, just in case the Terran breaks this contain, has something behind it at home to continue to supply this army. Meanwhile, minerals beginning to run out, going into almost 10 minutes now. If the Terran runs out of money, it's going to be game over for him. With SCVs, Hero SCVs, trying to keep the Vikings alive, trying to focus down the defense. Not enough. Victory to our cheesy Protoss from Facebook, Catfish. As predicted, Catfish with a K, a little bit of an attitude. That attitude carries them to a win in map 1. So 1-0 lead for Facebook Heart over Shopify in our 3rd series on our Saturday morning rewind. It'll take us just a moment, just a short delay. We are currently watching replays of last week's Starcraft action, played on a separate patch. That patch does require some logging in, logging out, repeatedness, a little bit of wonky logistics here, but we're doing our best to get the Starcraft to you, the viewers, as quickly as we can. We'll be going into Game 2 here shortly on King's Cove between our 2 combatants, Facebook and Shopify. Excuse me. As the loading continues here, just take just a minute to update our overlay for our new players. We're going to see Enterprise from Facebook and Bound from Shopify. We'll see if Shopify can recover some dignity after that first loss. Lost that cheesy cannon rush. Or we'll see if Facebook can use the momentum from that cheese and carry it forward into game number 2, take a commanding lead in the series. Game number 2 loading in now. We're looking at King's Cove LE between Facebook Heart and Shopify. Spawning in the upper left for Facebook Heart, we have the USS Enterprise. Beam me up. In the lower right for Shopify, our orange Protoss. Maybe looking to get a little bit of his own cheese out. Drop it, get that forward, show him what the cannon rush feels like. Cannon rush is not as effective against the Zerg, but I'd love to see him try anyway. Our orange Protoss, Bound, is going to go ahead and start dropping the wall on the low ground. Get that sort of safer natural expand for our Protoss. Meanwhile, Zerg opting for the pool before hatch. A little bit of a more conservative approach here. Getting that spawning pool lets him get the lings out just a little bit faster. Helps him defend against that early aggression coming from the Protoss as natural. Meanwhile, Protoss going ahead and getting his gas down. Gonna allow him to move into some of those heavier gas units coming out of the gateway, the Stalkers and the Sentries, as well as tech up. Single gas though, probably wants to go ahead and get the Cyber Core down, get the expand going, get his economy rolling before he really gets into heavy play. Probe now moving into position, 370 minerals in the bank. Nexus is going to drop any second. Interesting timing, gets it down just a hair after the Zerg natural hatchery going down. Going to be on even bases with just a slight early advantage to the Zerg. Zerg, of course, wants to be a base ahead of their opponent, get that heavy macro going in order to stay even, flood units across. A couple of Lings are going to pop for Enterprise, and he's going to drive back the probe from Bound. Facebook looking to leverage their one-game advantage into a two-game advantage. Enterprise poking around, looking for any of those openings he can exploit. Goes ahead and parks his Overlord on the perv poach up there, giving him a vision on that entire natural from the safety without being noticed. Lings just running around, being annoying, giving Enterprise some very good map control, able to run around. He'll know when the third comes down. He'll be able to see what's going on, what kind of army is happening here for our Protoss. The depths out of position, warping across the map, but one Ling gets in. Is going to see the Protoss main, going to see all the tech going down, the Robo, an extra pylon, double gas. Meanwhile, the Adepts moving out across the map. See, they high-five a Roach as he comes by. These Roaches are going to be more than enough to shut down the Adepts. I'm going to try to pick them off before they shade into the main. If they do get into the main, gets one, and decides to cancel the shade and just gives up those Adepts very freely. A lot of Roaches now coming out for Enterprise, looking like we're going to continue the heavy early aggression trend from Facebook. Coming across the map. Protoss looking very defensive here. Doesn't have a lot of units though. 3 shield batteries are going to be tough. But this Immortal might pop just in time for him to hold against these Roaches rolling in. A couple of Lings, slow Lings, not able to get across the map very quickly, but still going to add just a little bit more annoyance to this attack. 2 sentries, the Immortal Stalker, lots of opportunity for the Protoss to hold very well here. A couple of Ravagers warping in. Protoss moves out actually. He's seen an opportunity here to get into this Protoss army. Cuts himself off, pulls away actually from the shield batteries, but splits the Zerg army in half of those force fields. Doesn't quite get the kill on that last Ravager, but feeling pretty good nonetheless. Able to get about half that Zerg army knocked down. Those beefy Protoss units put in work. The 2 Immortals, the Sentries, with their way over the battlefield. Shield batteries also just making this too hard of a nut to crack. Protoss gonna regroup, Zerg gonna regroup, Enterprise, figure out what he can do to crack this. One thing he could crack this with is some heavier tech. Going up to Lair, it's gonna allow him to move into the next tier of Zerg units. Hydras, Spire, maybe a Nidus. I'd love to see some Nidus play. One of the smaller bases on the in the map pool. Just a small area up here in the upper right of the base where you could squeeze Nidus into if the opponent is not building out. But Protoss, excuse me, getting mixed up quite a bit. Protoss doing a good job filling out all those dark areas, giving them all the vision in case there's a Nidus incoming. Warp Prism now out for Bound is going to allow him to be a little bit more aggressive. Start warping in on the front lines while the bulk of his army moves across the map. Just carrying a single Zealot, carrying a probe. Excuse me, that probe maybe wants to warp in an aggressive proxy pylon to help support this while the Warp Prism Wings around the outside. Gotta see the creep starting to come out. Oh, interesting. Interesting move from our Protoss. Goes ahead and drops the pylon with the 4 shield batteries, using the power off of that Warp Prism. That's going to make this push that much scarier. If he can bait the Zerg army down into these shield batteries, it's going to be tough for the Zerg army to crack. Lots of Immortals involved, going to deal with those roaches just fine. He may have enough army supply here to deal with this even without the shield batteries, but going to move up, going to swing, rotate around into the third now. May force the cancel on that third with those sentries there, able to cut off the Zerg reinforcements, but Zerg, sensing blood in the water, they decide they don't want to engage the army. They just want to take out those scary, scary shield batteries. So, lots of money sort of wasted there, but distracts the attention. That one Stalker pulling the entire army by himself as his sentries lead the charge with Guardian Shield. Drones being pulled. Well, the drones decide to go back now. It's just a little bit too much damage there. A lot for the Zerg army to deal with. Not a clear path dealing with this. Trying to get some of those Ravager shots in for free. More roaches continuing to spawn. Force fields go down. Doesn't really get anything cut off, but just a large arc of Protoss here. Even more force fields, keeping the army out of reach. Stalkers and Immortals pounding away at the Zerg forces. Good Ravager shots go off, get a couple of Stalkers, but it's just not enough for Enterprise. Bound for Shopify takes game number 2, tying the series up 1-1. So we've moved into a 1-1 tie with Shopify revenging the cheeky cannon rush that they faced with just a solid standard macro attack from their own Protoss. So it'll be just a minute here. We are playing on the old patch, as I've repeated a few times today. It's going to take a minute to log in and out of Starcraft to get this next game set up. Game number 3 on Cyber Forest between Facebook Heart and Shopify. Facebook Heart hoping to maybe prove they can win in a macro game. They're not just a team of cheesers. Shopify hoping to build on the momentum of that last win and take a lead in the series. As we load into Cyber Forest, spawning in the upper left for Facebook, we have Mantric. And in the lower right, our blue Terran. For Shopify, we have Incarnate. Cyber Forest is it's a fairly well balanced map for both of these teams. A large area, one of the larger main bases in the map pool, allows a lot of aggression to come in. If you don't get vision out here, Nidus's drops, just allowing the enemy attacking force to establish a fortified position without noticing. This first base fairly well defended. Notably, Reapers and things like that can't just easily hop up into the main, so Reaper's not as strong an opening on this map. But otherwise, a reasonably average-sized map. The third, a little bit harder to take. You have the opportunity to take this a little bit safer third, sort of directly outside of your natural, but gives sort of 2 open paths. 3, once these rocks come down, a very strong attacking concave from the high ground for your opponent. And this other alternate third sitting on its own high ground, but a little bit more open to attack from multiple angles. Fairly standard opener from both sides so far. Just a little bit of scouting coming through for the SCV. Not seeing a whole lot. Sees the spawning pool down. Sees the second hatch. Very standard opening Zerg play. Terran deciding to go with the Reapers after all. Reaper just going to allow him to get a little bit of scouting information in. Give him that little bit of vision to know what's going on in the Zerg base. Starting a factory now. Without his second gas. Second gas usually pretty important if you want to get into a higher tech game. Getting those factory units out and such. But for now, the Reaper moving across the map. He's going to be able to go ahead and get into the Zerg natural before the Queen pops. A couple of Lings on the field, maybe able to chase him away, but not before he gets some vision. Decides to engage the Lings. Rolls over to the cliffside. The Lings pulling back to the creek where they have a little bit of a speed advantage. Reaper running away, gonna bandage those wounds, come back just as strong as he started, but with the Queen on the field, it's gonna make it very difficult for the Reaper to continue any harass. Would have liked to have seen the Reaper maybe get up into the main, scout anything that the Zerg might be doing, but looks like he's gonna do exactly that right now. Gonna see the spawning pool wiggling, indicating the metabolic boost on the way, but doesn't see any extra tech. I'm going to start picking away at some of the drones, try to deny some mining time. But the Queen comes over in defense of her brood, pick off that Reaper in any sort of harassment in the near term. Meanwhile, as we've seen from a lot of our Terrans today, opting for, I guess for the second time today, opting for the concussive shells first. A Marauder concussive shell with Hellions, reactored Hellions coming out. This could be a very interesting attack coming up in the next roughly 1 minute from our Terran. Concussive shell Marauders keeping things at bay while the Hellions get in and just toast everything. Of course, the Overlord in his perv poach up there, seeing everything as it unfolds. Hellions moving across the map now. They're going to see what they can do, maybe deny some of that creep spread with these all these extra Queens coming out from the vehicle. Sees, hopefully sees the third now, denying some of those fresh creep tumors, but chased away by those extra Queens. Quite a few Lings on the field. With that speed, they'll be able to surround those Hellions and hopefully get a kill off, but going to want to continue to focus on getting this creep spread, connecting his bases, and giving him a free run of the map. More Hellions continuing to roll out for our Terran with a couple of with some extra bio behind it. Medevac picking up the Marauders coming across. The Hellions are now Hellbats. Hellbat's going to be just a little bit beefier and healed by that medevac. Marauder Hellbat punch very effective here. Going to be able to take out most of what the Zerg's going to be able to throw at them. But 8 roaches in production. 8 roaches with those extra Queens and Leads. Decides to go ahead and sack the third. Not worth trying to give up his good defensive position at the natural to defend it. Zerg has a lot here. Sport Crawler goes down, just a little bit extra DPS against that medevac. Sneak in. Hellions, Hellbats toasting all the Lings, running in just enough, but Hellions starting to go down. Medevac was picked off. Marauders now starting to get picked off. Roaches chasing them down. Plenty of Zerg forces here to overrun the Terran attack. As the Zerg looks to recover from that, maybe get that third back going again. It's going to go ahead and whip in a drone from that little bit of free larvae he had left over. Meanwhile, Terran looking to get his own third started. Has a Liberator on his front, just to prevent any kind of Little run-bys, kill a couple of lings or roaches as they kind of come in. Executing on his own Hellion run-by, coming across the top of the map. Maybe wants to squeeze in, try to hit the possible 3rd, 4th, 5th, anything the Zerg might be putting down. But Zerg looking to engage now, using the vision from that Overlord with the roaches and the Ravagers, trying to hit that high ground. Does get spotted out by the Liberator, drives the Liberator back with the Ravager Bile, snipes a worker. Very good shot, good skill shot from those Ravagers. Meanwhile, Hellions in the mineral line of the second, toasting workers. Devastating blow to the Zerg economy. 9 workers down now. As the Queens show up and start to shut down those Hellions, 12 workers barbecued. Devastating damage, and that actually puts the Terran ahead in workers. 41 to 31. Commanding economy lead, especially when you consider the extra mules from the Terran orbitals. Hasn't restarted his orbital did finish. His command center did finish starting the orbital. Needs to repair that. Doesn't want to lose that unnecessarily. Lots of defenses here between the Liberator and tanks. A couple of Hellions are going to allow him to get away at that Raptor force. Just not a very good engagement for the Zerg. Using that command center now as a spotting tool. Probably hoping when he clears this up that he can go ahead and land that. Wants to be careful not to lose it though. Already low health. Continuing to work more and more Ravagers. Just trying to get that siege damage in. Trying to pick off one tank. The Liberator siege up though. Start picking off a lot of Zerg. That was the cue for the Terran army. As the Zerg army continues to assemble. Those Marauders, Hellions, tanks, the Marauders with those concussor shells, underrated upgrade to keep the Zerg forces from running away. Ravagers stuck in a bind. He's decided to go ahead and give them up, give up that positioning, allow the Terran to take that base. Meanwhile, hasn't quite saturated his 3rd, catching up in the drone count, 45 to 48. Able to produce a lot of drones very quickly with that, getting good larva injects, but a lot of upgrades coming in now. 1-1 finishing for our Zerg. Our missile attacks hoping to go stick to the roaches, as well as the mag field accelerators for Incarnate, but make those Cyclones just a little bit scarier with their burst damage. Liberators kind of catch a whiff of some roaches start following them. Hellions follow up. Hellions less effective against the roaches. Being very careful to defend this 3rd. 3rd still in a pretty precarious situation. Just a couple of tanks here to defend. These Bioshots, though, are going to take out one of those Liberators. Very effective against the Liberators. But with the Hellion run by, the Liberator hitting the 3rd of the Zerg, just doing so much economic damage now, taking out the larva. Queens show up, try to run the Liberator away, and the Liberator just scoots onto the edge of the map. Let's see if he can get a 3-shot off on the Queen. I'm going to deny a couple of those patches as the Zerg army continues to poke away. Going to knock these rocks down now, give them a very good attack angle coming down that ramp. Spore Crawler, when he gets established, is going to finish off this Liberator. Liberator getting a couple more kills before dying. And using this arc now, Zerg army pushing in with just so much siege from our Terran between those Liberators and tanks. Cyclones with those with that lock-on, going to do so much damage in a hurry. Blue Flame also finished for our Terran, so getting that much more damage against the light units. Not buying him any advantage against these roaches, but still a friendly sight for the Zerg. This Battle Next Ball with the water support starting to really tear into the Zerg now. Taking off those Liberators, not microing them as much, focusing on microing the cycling things around. Not enough here to clean up though. Cyclones and tanks. Tanks in a fortified position as Aaron continues to rally across the map. GG from Facebook. Shopify continuing a strong showing in these macro games, taking game number 3 for a 2-1 lead in our series. Very close series so far. Very good games from both sides. Shopify with a 2-1 lead now, hoping to maybe end the series on our 4th map, Port Alexander, take home the 3-1. Facebook hoping to come back, tie the series up at 2, and force that ace match on Automaton. We'll see if our two teams can... we'll see what happens with our two teams. Just taking an extra second here, loading up the match from week 3, played on a previous patch. Loading up now. Looks like we're gonna get another ZVZ. Haven't seen a ZVZ so far in this series, but lots of opportunity in a ZVZ to see some interesting play from both sides. The mirror match tends to lend itself to either a quick game or a bit of a long game as it sort of stalls out. So, moving into map number 4 now on Port Alexander. Spawning in the lower right, Nalakuwa. Nala. Didn't practice these names beforehand. My apologies if I get them wrong. You're all fine and wonderful and beautiful individuals, but your names are so hard to say. In the lower left and lower right, Nalakuwa, our yellow Zerg from Team Facebook. And in the upper left from Team Shopify, our red Zerg, CEA. I see you. Very standard opener so far. CEA opting for the early hatch. A little bit more of a macro opener, while Nala taking the slightly safer spawning pool first. Spawning pool going to allow our yellow Zerg to get his Zerglings out a little bit earlier. Give him an opportunity to apply the early pressure and it looks like early pressure is in the cards as he goes ahead and drops the spawning pool, or excuse me, the Baneling nest. Gonna apply heavy aggression with this hatch first build. CEA not gonna have much at home to defend. This could be a quick GG if he's not prepared. Overlord's flying across the map, misses the vision of that one. Gonna run right under this one though. Ling speed also started. Baneling nest just about to finish. CEA may be expecting the early Lings, but is he expecting the quick bust? That second hatch about to finish. Those Lings show up. He's going to go ahead and let it finish. Two Banelings morphing in out of sight of that natural. All the workers get pulled. Just a handful left at home to mine. Using that opportunity to transfer as well. Ling speed about halfway done for Nala, and that finishes. That's going to sees the Baneling. Baneling going in for the kill here. Doesn't get much. But those Lings chipping away at that natural now. Just heavy aggression here. Second Baneling ready. Queen pops at the natural, but enough Lings here to clean it up. Queen takes a very advantageous position in the mineral line, preventing the surface area from those Lings. Gets a couple of Lings down, but isn't enough as Yellow pulls Lings around to the backside. Speed about to finish now for Yellow, and that's going to give him even more of an advantage. Spine Crawler's going down. Just Red hoping for anything that he can do to stay alive in this game. Seiyu was hoping to close the series out for Shopify, but in poor position right now is Facebook, continuing on their trend of early cheese to win games. Looks like a very strong, well-practiced build from Nala. Even more banelings coming out now, and as long as both reserves remain on one base, a very even game. Nala deciding not to drop a hatchery yet, but Seiyu, returning the favor, has his baneling nest down. Those banelings, it'll be all about the connections on these banelings. If he can get an efficient trade, very easily get back into the game. Taking out Nala's banelings or Nala's large Ling balls. However, only gets a couple of Lings, a handful of Lings there. Not able to get the epic hits perhaps that Yellow was looking for. But 3 spawn crawlers in the main now, going to make it very hard for Yellow to just break. But with the slow Lings versus these banelings, it's going to be hard. Gets caught up on that ramp. A large explosion gets quite a few Lings as the queens come in. Seiyu deciding it's safe now for him to try to expand, try to get into this game in macro-wise, but Nala not interested in letting it happen. Nala also dropping his natural. Overlords high-fiving on the cliff side there, also down here. A lot of Overlord buddies. Just hanging out, trying to get a view, trying to keep tabs on everything their Zerg broods are doing. Yellow decides to pull back a little bit further. Just wants to keep his units out on the field, maintain that map vision, maintain that map control that's so critical to ensuring that his opponent's not going to surprise him with anything. Ling speed just now starting for our red Zerg. Meanwhile, Carapace almost finished for our yellow Zerg. Carapace is going to be just enough to keep these Lings alive. Give them just a small advantage. Sacrifices a couple of Lings to take out a Bane. Effective trade. 25 minerals for gas. Decides to run in with these spine crawlers on the low ground. All that creep available. If he gets these burrows, it's going to be very difficult for Nala to break. Get some good connections on those banelings though, and morphs the rest of the Lings into banelings. More yellow Lings running in to try to clear those banelings before they finish morphing. Very tight, even game so far. Metabolic boost about to finish for our red Zerg, slowly getting back into the tech game now. Quite a few queens on the front lines. Queens very effective at base defense. Very slow off creep though. Very likely this queen's going to get picked off. As the surround comes in from the yellow, picks off the queen opportunistically. 3 spine crawlers now down for the red Zerg at his natural. It's gonna be very difficult to break this. And so our yellow pulling back, leaves his overlords in the front line, but army comes back home, decides he's gonna move into another unit. Start just with the work Warren just now finishing. Evo Chamber up, already has Carapace 1 done. Gonna move into missile weapons, so moving into a definitely into the away from the Ling Bang, especially getting that Roach speed started. Probably wants to use a window here to tech up a little bit, get those roaches a little bit more beefy as he before the red Zerg Seiyu has a chance to respond. Seiyu still sitting on tier 1 tech, getting his own Carapace started, but hasn't moved into roaches or anything higher yet. When these roaches start moving across the field, he is going to be in for a shock. Seiyu sitting on the larger army at the moment, but Nala with the technological advantage, stronger units on the field, as well as better upgrades. Quite a few banelings now morphing in for Seiyu. Looks like he's going for the big bust. He's going to try to show Nala how it's done, but these roaches on the front lines, they're going to be able to soak those baneling hits. It won't feel good, but it's going to be a lot more effective than the banelings. Minecrawler almost going to finish. Roaches get the pick off. Roaches going to give their lives for the cause as the lings now flood into the natural. A lot of damage, a lot of just Zerg action here. Minecrawler is just barely staying alive before the lings cut off, but the roach reinforcement just enough to keep the aggro on the lings. It's going to be very close here as the roaches tear into the lings with their tunneling claws. Just missed the timing here as Carapace finishes for Seiyu as the last lings are getting cleaned up. A full reset for both sides there, but Nala with the defender's advantage coming out on top, loses a spine, loses quite a few army units, but these roaches are just going to give Yellow such a large tech advantage. Seiyu flooding more and more, 20 more lings in production. Looks like he's committed to this low-tech type of flood. Only working off of one gas, so it doesn't have a lot to really move up beyond the lings. Really focused on not dying almost. Nala capitalizing on the tech advantage to take a supply lead, a massive army lead, small deficit in workers, but it's going to be easy as Seiyu's third base continues to come online. It's going to be difficult to catch up in that. Roaches find themselves in an advantageous position, getting around from the lings, but not able to get into the core of those roaches. Roaches so speedy, so buff right now. Ling's gonna cut off another queen, trying to retreat the queen way too far off for their own safety. But the roaches and lings are gonna see the spine crawlers at the natural end. They're gonna back out. However, this third is completely undefended. The ling's gonna run in and try to surround the roaches, but not able to get much done there. Roaches is gonna move back in. This hatch is going to go down. The red just doesn't have enough to reinforce here. Leaves a few units at home and sends the rest up to the high ground. Red Lings going for a counterattack now. Looks like they want to try to keep the try to pull the yellow army back home. Try to do as much economic damage as possible. But there's a spine crawler here, a couple of queens, roaches continuing to stream out. It might be enough. Those lings aggroed on that spine crawler, not doing a lot of damage. A couple of lings getting in the main, but not much damage from it. Looks like that queen may even survive as roaches just continue to be annoying. Final lings go down as the roaches from yellow continuing to pour into the natural of red. 2 spine crawlers down now. All the queens are dead. 1 queen remaining in the corner line, but that's not going to be enough. As Seiyu GG's here. Facebook pulls it back. Takes game number 4 to tie up the series 2-2. We have a tie ball game, and for the first time today, going into a true ace match. We'll see. Facebook pulling out a couple of cheesy builds to take their 2 wins. Shopify winning on some very solid, just well executed macro. We'll see which team will survive once we get into the ace match. It'll take just a minute now as we are loading up the replay on the old patch. This is our final map for today before we take a break to start preparing for our live matches. We'll be casting The Red Hat Hatlings against IBM. So look forward to that at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Replay coming up now. Just about ready to go on this as the two teams throw their aces together, trying to take home all of the glory. Both teams coming in 1-1, about as even as you could ask for. Going into the best game of the day, bonus Starcraft, the ace match, best of 5 here on Automaton. We'll see which ace will take home the win. As we spawn into Automaton on the left side, our orange Protoss from Shopify, Bound. And on the right, our purple Zerg from Team Facebook Heart, Enterprise. This is a replay of the earlier match between these two players. Bound and Enterprise went to a macro game as Bound took that game. We'll see if Enterprise can bring it back, try to get revenge for that earlier game, or if Bound can repeat his performance and take home the series for Shopify. Bound electing to take that low ground wall to make it slightly safer for his natural expansion. This map, there's a large cliff here, low ground cliff, not a low ground cliff, but a medium cliff. It's very good hopping units in and out of if you can get that vision. It can be very annoying if you have Night is play. Blink Stalker's also very effective if you're on the Protoss side. Just blinking in and out from what is nominally the Zerg's third into the Zerg main. Able to get sort of a lot of harass in on that. If you elect not, the third would allow you to defend against that a little bit better, but that third very open to a large concave from your opponent. Alternate third a little bit safer, only has the one attacking route with some rocks there to sort of squeeze that ramp a little bit, but also spreads you a little bit thinner, pulls your army away from your main if your opponent decides to go with some low-high action. Spawning pool almost finished for our purple Zerg now as the Bound's probe continues to scout. Just going to hang in there as long as he can, get as much information before he has to bail. Starting his own Adepts at home with Warpgate. Those Adepts going to allow him just to do a little bit of harass. Going ahead and chronoing out that Adept, actually, trying to get it out as quickly as possible. Knows that that probe won't be able to stay in that base forever. Either hoping to get some damage done with that Adept or use the Shades to figure out what the Zerg wants to transition into. Both players electing in their previous match to go more macro-oriented route. Knowing what tech your opponent is moving to can help you produce the counter tech ahead of time. Probe deciding to go ahead and run on home as the Adept is here to tap him out. A few things at home already for Enterprise. Starting to get that creep spread, but that Queen getting really far off creep. Probably won't be able, probably won't die to the single Adept, but really out of position. Lings are going to want to go ahead and take out that Adept. Queen continuing to be pulled further and further away from the crunchy creep of the natural. Adepts shading in, these 6 Lings, not quite enough to deal with it. Has to pull the workers. Go ahead and send the Shades back down to the natural. Gets 2 worker kills so far. Goes ahead and jumps out. Feels pretty good about his scouting. Purple taking a ton of economic damage there. Not losing workers, but losing a lot of mining time. However, already considerably, it's actually pretty even, to be fair. Very close on workers, very close on army, very close incomes. Only got 1 gas so far, and no workers in that gas. After killing all of those workers, hasn't just now repopulating that. Going to make it a little bit more difficult for him to get into tech units that require gas. Meanwhile, a couple of lings coming across the map. They're going to poke at the front wall here. Stalker on hold command in the gap there. It's going to hold back. Won't last terribly long. But another adept warping in behind him. The adepts so good against lings with their bonus light damage. Bound continuing to macro up. Has the robo out, decides to go for the observer first. Observer is going to give him a lot of map vision. Map vision is so important to knowing what your opponent's doing, where your opponent is, making sure you can't be surprised. But on the flip side, Bound dropping those adepts in the main again, just being so annoying with this adept play, coupled with the warp prism, able to take advantage of that high-low ground advantage. Adepts in natural now, just continuing to do damage. He's going to see the stream of drones, all of Purple's drones going to the third. He's going to know there's a third there. Plenty of clings here to drive away the warp prism. Warp prism takes a little bit of hull damage, but picks up his load of depths and goes some. Bound attempting to stay on par economically with the Zerg, dropping his own third. Has done so much economic damage, not just in killing drones, but keeping them from mining for so long. He's essentially stayed ahead in the economic game. As a Zerg, not a position you really want to be in. You really want to be a base ahead. Picks off those couple of run-by lings. Not able to get much, just seeing what the Protoss is doing. A lane does make it into the third. Pokes away at it, doesn't have a whole lot else to do. Knows the Protoss is expanding though. Goes ahead, Bound's going to drop a couple of shield batteries here at the third. Make it just a little bit more defensible when he does get ready to defend it. Good creep thread coming out from our Zerg so far. Already creeped into what will nominally be his fourth base, as well as connecting his natural and his third. Warp Prism coming back into the third now, dropping those adepts again. Looks like he gets 2 drone kills, shades away, but gets picked up by the Warp Prism. Lots of lings there. Not going to be able to do a whole lot with just those 3 adepts. We'll see if he decides to continue to harass the Zerg, or if he's going to go ahead and fly home once again. Ground Weapons 1 finished for our Protoss. Going to make him just a little bit tougher to deal with. Meanwhile, lots of upgrades on the way for our Zerg. Missile Weapons 1, as well as Hydra range and that Roach speed. Really looking to go heavy on the tier 2 missile units here. Roach Hydra, very good combination. Very generic Zerg combination. Doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, doesn't have a lot of explicit strengths. But this massive sentries here are just gonna, as we have the Phoenix fly through, continuing to scout, just playing very safe defense to Protons. Trying to keep a read on what his Zerg's doing, being very reactive, very proactive in terms of developing counterattack. Seeing the Zerg composition. Zerg going ahead and taking the gold here. Notably on this map, as you can see, the gold, backside of the gold protected by some destructible debris. You could not only take your natural course, whichever direction you take. Drop the base there, and then long distance mine. Clear out those rocks as you saw the Protoss doing, and drop an extra base there to get those quick gold minerals. Very safe, creates a nice defensive arc here, but does deny you accessibility to those gas minerals. Of course, those gold minerals go very quickly. Not a lot of minerals on those as compared to our standard mineral patches. Opens this up for another attacking angle. Very clean attacking angle. Very short distance from what would normally be the Zerg standard lane. Zerg, of course, continuing, deciding to go ahead and take those both of those spaces all at once, getting all the mineral income as he continues to build up that Roach Hydra ball. and more upgrades coming down with missile weapons 2, carapace 2, and the the Hydra speed just now finishing. Lurker Den on the ground as well. That's going to allow him to set up some siege against this primarily ground-based Protoss army. Protoss just electing to micro up, trying to win the micro battle against the Zerg. 4th going down now. As the Overseer flies through the Protoss base, trying to get the counter scout off. Gonna see all of the Protoss things, including the Stargate, in the back. But Ground 3 started for the Protoss. Those upgrades for Protoss so effective. Zealot run by with a couple of DTs. DTs Bound decided to play a little bit of cheesy here. Show Facebook how it's done. No detection available. That Spore Crawler uprooted as the DTs just go to town. 10 workers killed now. DT's still on the board, but he'll get taken out by the Lurker. So finally cleaned up. Enterprise is going to need to be sharp on those Overseers. Make sure he doesn't take any more unnecessary damage like that. But Zerg, not in great economic position. Wants to be ahead in bases, wants to be ahead in workers. Currently bound with a 4-worker lead. Enterprise with the army lead. Has the composition he was probably looking for with that Roach Hydra Lurker. But just taking so much harassment from that Warp Prism, from those Zealot Warp Ends. Bound being so good, using that Sentry energy for those hallucinated phoenixes, continuing to scout, constantly knowing what the Zerg is doing, when the Zerg is transitioning, sees the lair, has not started a hive yet, hasn't scouted the infestation pool though, kind of tucked away behind the 3rd, but it's an opportunity now for the Protoss to start repositioning his army. Lots of Immortals in this army, going to be very susceptible to those Lurkers. But with that Observer out, if he can keep the Observer in good position to deal with the to get vision on those Lurkers, won't have any problem chewing through those massive Immortal hits, especially as his Ground Weapons 3 finishes. Starting Air Weapons 1 and 3 carriers in production for our Protoss, going into the late game now, folks. Had some cheesy games and had some, 2-base, 3-base kind of games, but going late game on this one, we're going to start seeing those heavy high-tech units coming out now. Carriers will be on the field here momentarily as Bound sort of sets up a little bit of a forward base, a couple of photon cannons just for a little bit of extra protection and DPS. As he approaches maxing out. Round 3 finishes as the Zerg army moves in around the upper part of that double base. Those Lurkers are buried and it's going to do so much damage as the Protoss army way out of position, not able to reinforce. The Lings running around, getting drone kills. Meanwhile, small Zealot run by in one of the Zerg bases quickly shut down by Spine Crawlers. But the bulk of the Zerg forces, that Roach Hydra Lurker, just continuing to run forward and quickly take out this front wall. But the Protoss army, that slow Protoss army, has finally made it around. Massive storms going down on these Hydras. The Hydra's not very beefy. Going to take a lot of damage from that. Storm's also very effective against the Lurkers. Don't need to see them to storm on them, but Lurkers are going to be real disappointed when the carriers start rolling in. Lurkers not able to shoot up, unlike their Hydra predecessors. The ground forces of Protoss taking heavy damage as they lose 12 more workers with those Hydras moving in. Hydra's going to take out that expansion, but these carriers are going to be able to easily clean up. Needs to get an observer on those 3 Lurkers sitting there next to that other base. Otherwise, going to lose a lot of units unnecessarily. Start taking hits. A couple of units pull back just in time, not to avoid getting taken out as the observer pops. Those carriers are going to clean up very nicely. Layer Hive started for the Zerg. He wants to get into the end game as well. Lots of Corruptors hitting the field now. These Corruptors are going to be very effective against those carriers. Those Interceptors will get soft countered by the Hydras. Hydras will do so much DPS, able to shut down those Interceptors faster than they can be built. And the carrier and the Corruptors will just chew through the carrier hulls like butter. Zerg decided to move down into the lower right Protoss base now. One of his precious bases. That shield battery not going to be enough to stop this Hydra Ball encroaching. But the bulk of the Protoss forces, which at this point consists of primarily carriers and swarms, going to be coming down. Lots of storms going down on the Corruptors. So many storms, just storming the Corruptors. Doesn't even need things to pick up. Carriers, all of the Interceptors nearly destroyed by those Hydras, but storms enough to take out the Corruptors, keep those carriers alive, as he's going to be able to rebuild those. Massive economy that he has going. Mined out, nearly mined out in his main, but as well as his natural. Still looking at effectively 2 base, maybe 2.5 base, with the 3rd base coming up. If we take a look at the mining for our Zerg, his main and natural nearly mined out, putting a hurt on that 3rd, and getting lots of good mileage out of that gold and extra base. Focusing a lot of workers over here on the gold, getting those tasty minerals while he can. Carriers continuing to build up with a couple of Vipers in production for the Zergs. Vipers with that yoink and pull those carriers out of position, make them highly vulnerable away from the rest of the Protoss army. But Protoss preparing its own counters. Several DTs warping in along with Colossi. Colossi are going to be very effective against the ground units, while the carriers clean up the air units. These DTs spreading far and wide, going to each of the bases. Going to look for them some drones to kill. Divide and conquer. DT makes it to this base, sees the base started, starts chopping away at it. He is hanging out. He probably sees the drones mining from the far side of the gold. Lost track of the 3rd DT, but several more DTs in production. Continuing those air weapon upgrades, air hull upgrades as well. Getting the pylon out, giving him some a little bit of a scouting advantage. Going to continue to move DTs into each of these bases. Spore crawlers are there, so he's going to get easily picked off by the queen. Spore crawler moved out of this base, so he'll get a few free drone kills. Not a lot of minerals left here, but still economic damage on the Zerg. Goes ahead and decides to take out the queen instead. Some of those larva injects. Slow down the Zerg production as much as he can. And we take a look at the Golden Armada continuing to build here. Just a scary army. Maxed out carriers with storming Templars and Colossi. Just so much splash damage, so much single target burst. But the Zerg army looks like it's almost ready to attack. Besides Bearfoot, needs to get those lurkers buried to deal with some of the ground forces. Lurkers not going to be very effective against a lot of what the Protoss has right now. Plethora of observers, 3 observers, 4 observers, 5 observers, excuse me, sitting on the field at the moment. Lurkers going to try to seize down those cannons, but we may have a large engagement here coming down. Viper's looking for an angle to yoink. That first carrier gets yoinked, but not able to capitalize on it immediately. The rest of the Protoss army moves in. So many interceptors out right now. Splash damage from these Colossi. Heavy single target damage from these Immortals. Corruptors swinging around, trying to focus down the carriers, taking tons of damage from the Storm and Interceptors as the Protoss army able to maintain relatively safe air weapons, 2 finishes, ground armor, nearly done. This Protoss army just getting stronger and stronger. Zerg rotates around to this expansion with so many shield batteries there. It's going to make it so good for the Protoss defensively. Zerg attempting to get Spore Crawlers out on the field to help deal with this air army, but more and more storms going out on these Corruptors. The storms being so effective right now, and the Interceptors coming in to clean up. A lot of those Interceptors now depleted, but it won't take long for them to rebuild. Bound sitting on a small supply lead, about 20 supply, mostly in army, but also a small worker lead. Not the position you want to be in with only 60 workers on the Zerg side. Really needs to get that economy ramped up if he wants to continue to compete with the Protoss. I'm going to pick off a Spore Crawler and a Lurker for free here. Deciding that as he continues to get close to max, moving out to try to clear some of this creep, reduce some of the map vision and mobility of the Zerg, but loses one carrier, loses two carriers. Those Corruptors finally doing all the work that they were built to do. Picking off more and more carriers. Only two carriers remaining now. Targeting the Colossi. See if he can get that Colossi. Colossi goes down. All the Colossi are down. Everything that shoots up. The Templar are completely out of energy. Can't get one last storm out. But now these Corruptors feeling a little useless. Just getting vision. Hydra's chasing down the Immortals, chasing down those Templar. Templar trying to get to safety so they can morph into Archons. Archons don't need energy. I'm going to come back and actually use this as Immortals to push the Archon up the ramp. Archon's immediately re-engaging. While this Zerg army still searching for answers. Able to do tons of knock out the Golden Armada, all the carriers down. Slowly is trying to rebuild them, but has the right composition to deal with the Protoss at the moment. Zerg taking a supply lead for what seems like the first time this game. Upgrades very even, relatively speaking, across the board. Lots of unit upgrades for both sides. 2-2 on ground for the Zerg, and 3-1 ground, as well as 2-1 air for our Protoss. Carriers showing up to reinforce the Protoss army now. They're going to move forward, try to start dealing with these Lurkers. Hydra's continuing to just chew up all the Interceptors, losing quite a few Interceptors there. It takes a while to rebuild them. Gives it sort of a ramp-up time. We do have a small run-by of Zealots up here in the upper part of the map, looking to clean out some of these Zerg bases. Keep the Zerg from running away economically. Orange in pretty good economic advantage. Took a really good trade there with the at the front with the shield batteries able to maintain. But Zealots just continuing to mow through. No army back home. Rallying a handful of roaches trying to take out these really annoying Zealots. Lots of workers going down. Another 3 workers going down. Clearing the Spore Crawler, maybe opening the way for some more DC harass. But Zerg not able to answer. But as we speak, large engagement going down to the bottom part of the map. Corruptors taking out the carriers, no issue. But the ground army getting decimated by those Archons and Storms. Carrier just kind of sitting idle. Doesn't have any Interceptors. Just, you know, flying boat in the sky. Interceptor pops, but so does the carrier. More Zealots being warped in, just trying to get some desperation meat in front of that army to stop that Roach Hydra coming out of the Zerg. Meanwhile, Zealots continuing to go to town in the upper part of the map. Base has been wiped out, taking out a lot of the infrastructure. That infestation pool starting to burn down off of creep. But Zerg just rotating around, dropping bases behind the Zealots, finally cleaning them up, getting a couple of roaches and queens in there. Looks like we have a little bit of a reset now. Protoss still nursing a supply lead. Interestingly enough, Zerg getting very greedy, deciding to take this, I hate to call it a hidden expansion, but the Protoss is right there. All he needs to do is walk up the ramp, and that's an easy pickoff. I wonder if he thinks he can actually hold this, or if he thinks he can hide it. Lots of Spore Crawlers going down again at the front. The Spore Crawlers, just a very effective anti-air without eating into the Protoss supply count. Excuse me, the Zerg supply count. I've been casting for quite a while. Those static defenses just so good from the Zerg. Protoss army pulling back to the shield batteries, just trying to get a little bit extra. Shield back. Meanwhile, DTRS, as predicted, with the Spore Crawlers wiped out, DTs are going to be able to move through here unmolested. Just take out everything. Even having the blink upgrade, so he can get through the wall with 0 difficulty. Takes out a queen, sees the spire, knows that if those corruptors go away, his carriers will be in good shape. Lots of lings flooding out though. Seemingly unable to deal with the DTs. Overseer finally shows up as the lings come out and Roaches to clean them up, but not before significant damage is taken. With another lot of tech taken out. Infestation pool continuing to burn down off creep. Not a good situation. This one DT hanging out, just scouting, invisible, sort of a landed observer. Protoss realizes there's a base there. Zerg can't do much to defend it. Now Protoss is maxed out though. Did try to get a couple of units up in the upper side cleaned up, but it continues to be effectively maxed out. Might decide now is the time to engage. Zerg sitting on 3-3 for his Roach Hydra. Very scary army, but similarly the air upgrades continuing to roll in for the Protoss. 10 workers going down now at this upper base as we get this run by from the Lings. Starting to mine out a lot of these bases. If we take a look around, main completely empty, natural empty. This third just now finishing. A handful of minerals left at this one. Handful left here. Protoss not left with much mining bases. Just this fresh base and this one about to be destroyed left for him to mine from. He could start taking that gold and get that money income coming back real strong, but it's not looking good. Meanwhile, just a handful of minerals left here for the Zerg. A lot of hatches fallen, just trying to rebuild some hatches to get his mineral income going again. Meanwhile, those carriers looking so scary. Roach is not able to do a lot of damage shooting up, but can shoot away at those Immortals and High Templars. The Archons morphing in will help take care of a lot of those Lings. Meanwhile, the Hydras continue to chew up the Interceptors from the carriers, making them even more useless on those. Golden Armada looking very strong here, just with the low econ stage that we've hit. Zerg not able to produce a lot of units to counter this. That Spire falling from the DTs a little while earlier, had to rebuild a second one, just now able to get his Corruptors out again, but it might be too late. Zerg finally getting his economy wrapped up, but it's not enough. Zerg GG's out. Good game. Excellent late game PVZ from Facebook and Shopify. As Shopify takes game number 3. Very good series between these two. Looking forward to seeing them even more throughout the rest of the season. Shopify moving into the upper side of the bracket with that 2-1 win. Facebook taking the loss, dropping to 1-2, hoping to maybe take a win here in a little while to reclaim the season.
So it's been a pretty long morning so far. I'm going to hop off here. We're going to go ahead and get set up for our live match coming up soon at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, between the Red Hat Hatlings and IBM. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon. GG.